everyone, we're here today with Neil Thorogood and Karen Tracey, who are going to talk to us about the Business and Beyond programme. So hi both, thank you for coming in, really appreciate it.
Thanks for inviting us.
No problem. So really we just wanted to find out more about this programme. It sounds very interesting, I'm very intrigued, and I think a lot of people out there would like to find out more, so off you go.
Okay, well, first of all, Amanda, thank you so much for inviting us today. We're thrilled to be here to talk about this. Neil and I have known each other for a long time, and we both run our own separate businesses, but we got talking one day, and it became very apparent that we knew so many people who are in business who don't have a plan for exit.
Mm-hmm.
They have great businesses, you know, good teams, good propositions, but they don't know where they're going, and they don't know what they want to do, and there's no plan for it. And we were talking one day, weren't we, Neil, about what we might do about that, and we decided we were going to write a programme that allowed Neil to use his expertise in finance and all of the skills that he's developed running businesses and selling his own business, and my expertise in leadership and management development to help people come up with that plan. And that's why we called it the Business and Beyond, because it's about them developing their business. So beyond that, they had a plan either for sale or for something else. They had a plan for choice. And that's how it was born.
Brilliant. So I know we've worked with yourself, Neil, for many years.
Yes.
So what's your then take on this? Just tell the audience, if you wouldn't mind, your experience and how it's brought you to this today.
Yes. Well, so 2 or 3 years ago, we sold the Care First group, and through that whole process of preparing for it for several years, developing the management team, and Karen helped us with that.
Yeah.
And branding and marketing, you helped us with that.
Yeah.
Amazing. And that was to put the business into a far better shape, so that if we did want to exit, we could.
Yeah.
And then the opportunity came, and because we were in a good state, we were able to sell and maximise the price we got for it, because the business looked good, behaved well.
Yes, you've got all well. It's about getting your ducks in order, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
It really is.
Okay.
And unless you do that, you're really quite at a disadvantage when you're looking to sell, or even to hand over to a management team.
Yeah.
So after I'd been through the whole process for selling and the due diligence process, where you have solicitors digging through all your documents and your files and questioning things and trying to renegotiate the deal, I recognised there was a real need for, thankfully we'd prepared very, very well, so we didn't have too much of a problem dealing with it, but I recognised that lots of businesses won't be ready, and they'll get caught either when they've got an offer on the table because things they haven't put in place properly, or their financial performance is erratic, or there's things in it that the buyer doesn't like. So that's why I approached Karen and said, look, we need to set something up that can help people.
So it's drawing on your mutual experiences, basically.
And expertise, of course, and backgrounds, which are very, very different.
Yes.
Which makes it a really enjoyable experience for Neil and I, and it's been a huge learning curve for us, and we've learned so much about it, because obviously you come at it from your own expertise and your own wheelhouse. We use that word so often. So understanding and having a more wider lens on the whole process has been really great. And there's times where my style and approach is right, and there's times where absolutely Neil's style and approach and expertise is right. And so that's been really great for us, because we've truly collaborated on it, and the client is the beneficiary of that, and we just really enjoy doing it and working with them and helping them.
Well, to find out more, what are some of these key risks for if you don't prepare? What are some of the key risks that people would entail?
Well, Amanda, I think the biggest risk to the business is they don't have a plan, as we said at the beginning. That's their first risk. And we have a saying in our family: if you aim at nothing, you'll hit it, and that's the biggest risk, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think timing is everything in these things, and I think business owners and entrepreneurs worry about when they should do it. We have conversations with people all the time, and they say, well, I'm not going to be selling maybe for another 10 years or another 5 years. So they do nothing, and
they park it.
Right, yeah, but life can throw a curveball, as we all know.
This is one of the other risks is not having a plan, but suddenly something happening in their life.
Exactly, yeah.
And we had it happen in our business. When my partner was ill, in the sale process.
Right.
Now, if that had happened earlier, who knows how the business would have been impacted. From that sudden, health scare. That's one of the big things, and of course you're then on the back foot. And as Karen says, the preparing, the plan and including people, the management team, leaders, the rest of it is so critical.
So it's about being proactive, because at the end of the day, this is what some people have worked all their lives for. It's their business, isn't it?
Absolutely. They have to be proactive in terms of having their plan. And that means they have to be really, really truthful with themselves about what they want. And so many people aren't ready to have that conversation. And that's the start of it. It's about it's about using visualization. What's your life look like in 10 years time, in 5 years time? And if you can't land that, then you're not going to be able to put a plan together with the right milestones to get there. You aim at nothing, you hit it. And my point when I was talking about, they might say, if it's 5 years time or 10 years time, and they just put it off. Well, the risk to that is there's so much work to be done in a lot of cases to improve a business and get it to a stage where it's investment ready or it's ready for a buyer where they'll come in and really think this is a business that we can buy. So by putting it off, you're not using that time to get it ready. They're putting the work off. They're putting the plan off. So actually, the longer you give yourself, the more sound the work will be that you actually carry out.
Yeah. So the whole process gives you a focus on your business, whether you're going to sell it or not.
Yeah.
So whether you actually
beneficial.
decide it's beneficial. It's a win-win.
Yeah, of course it is.
So building to make the owner, CEO, the leader of the business, to be less, necessary in the business is a critical part of it. So that's the delegation, the building a leadership team.
So having the exit strategy then, how can it bring value to the business?
Well, that's primarily because you start focusing on all the things that actually make the business a lot more attractive. So the financial performance, consistent financial performance, growth, showing that the business has got a growth trajectory rather than a business just flatlining. And giving the family a nice return and it's a lifestyle business, building it into something that's attractive to somebody to buy, to either integrate to their other businesses.
So you're maximising its performance through everything, aren't you?
Through everything. Through its branding, its marketing, its management team, its leadership team, its all the aspects that actually add value to a business. Making sure that you've got good employees, you've got you've not got a high staff turnover. You're keeping your employees, you're developing your employees. You're an innovative business, so you're creating new products and services. And that is more attractive to a buyer if the business is innovative and creative, because that will then feed throughout the whole business.
Of course,
And that's what you're selling then.
It's also important to understand where the value is, because the programme is in 3 phases. So the first phase is around largely Neil and I collecting information, analysing the business, doing a set of diagnostics. We do a full audit and an initial assessment process, which allows us to really see what's going on in the business, and then we go on to developing what some development might look like, what changes the business might need to make, what action planning needs to happen.
Okay.
So that's the start of the process. And that in itself identifies what's going well in the business often and where the business is found wanting. And that in itself can teach the business and the entrepreneur and the leadership team something. So they're going to gain value out of the programme in that way anyway. But it really, really helps us paint a picture of those risks, and it really helps us paint a picture of where value is in the business, so that we can start that journey with them and help them start to pull up a plan.
Yeah, sounds good. So how do business owners identify and prepare the right successors?
Oh, it's the $64,000 question.
Yes, I can imagine.
And the reason why it's a, I suppose, it's an emotive question, and I think sometimes when we meet people, and we all meet business, we're all in touch with a lot of businesses, aren't we? We talk
connected,
absolutely. We talk to a lot of business owners the whole time, and I think sometimes when I meet business owners, they have a preconceived idea of who's going to take over their business. They've sometimes made up their mind. They think, oh, it'll be him, or it'll be her, or it'll be them, and actually, sometimes those people don't want it. Sometimes they're going to find that very challenging without either some development or some changes to their role. So it's not a done deal. It's not in someone's head. And I think what a business owner has to do is remain very objective in when they understand or can land when they want to go, and what they want it to look like. They have to be really truthful about what the set of people is that's going to get them there. Okay. And it's not necessarily the set of people that's in the business. If it's a family business, it's not necessarily their family. Now that can become quite emotive, because if there's already family working in the business but they're not necessarily the right people to get it to the next stage, then that's not to say they need to go, these new people need to come in, but a conversation needs to be had about who is the right person, and when that conversation has been had, what needs to happen to help them grow and move to the next stage. So that's what succession planning is. Succession planning is planning the succession of people to get that business and to get that team to the next stage.
But it's basing everything on fact, isn't it?
It really is.
On research and fact.
Yeah, exactly.
And ability.
And avoiding all the sort of the emotional sort of...
So it's an evaluation, isn't it?
Evaluation, and them getting to actually recognise honestly and openly. And we've had some amazingly open conversations with clients and their children, which probably they've never had.
Yeah, I was going to say, I can imagine it being a real privilege to be in your position, to be sought after, and to have these candid conversations that really can change people's lives moving forward.
Well, I think all of us around this table are trying to help businesses be better at what they do. And I'm sure it's the same for you, Amanda. I know I feel like this, and I'm sure Neil does. Whatever I'm doing with it is a privilege, because people have to share, they have to be honest, they have to be vulnerable, they have to say things to Neil's point that they maybe don't want to talk about, or they find they've almost avoided it. So it is a real privilege that people trust you with that, and trust that you can help them. So it really is. But I think a family business has a completely different dynamic to a non-family business, and if one of the things, and Neil's heard me say this, one of the things I always say about family businesses, my experience of a family business going wrong, that's often because boundaries are not working. And if that's happening, and if you see evidence of that, you've got to fix that problem before you can get anywhere near a plan. And that is a real privilege, and it's a very delicate thing.
Very delicate, I can imagine.
That you've got to treat with respect. And this is where your experience and your background comes in. In doing something like this.
I think sometimes it's the fact that you've got to sort of, we act as the kind of the independent arbitrator in this, really. and we stop all those silly thoughts that are going on between the parents and the children, and actually put them on the table and have a proper grown-up conversation about them.
Yeah, a mediator as such.
Yeah.
And you're all striving for the same goal.
And you'll
at the
find
end
that
of the
things
day.
will come out and they'll say, oh yeah, we thought that, but they didn't want to say it because they didn't feel they had the right to say it.
Yeah, they were too insular, where you're a new set of eyes who can be quite independent.
Yes.
It's all constructive at the end of the day.
Yes.
You're all there,
And a lot of businesses don't have any other professionals in their armoury that can give us this depth of. They've got their accountants generally, but they will generally produce in them a set of accounts, maybe their management accounts, probably their tax returns, but they would never have the kind of candid conversations that we have.
No, this is really specialised in this sector, really.
And
what are some of the key factors business owners should consider when preparing their businesses for sale?
Well, a whole range of things really. One of the main things they should be looking at is the management and leadership team.
Yeah.
It's got sustainability in the business. Should the owner be going? So
they
need to be really focusing on that. The financial performance, they need to be producing reliable results that show that the company is going in the right trajectory, as opposed to flatlining.
What's the period for those results, would you say?
Well, I'd say you need to have a good 3 years of 4 years of good consistent results.
Yeah.
And if your results are all over the shop and they're up 1 year and down the next, it's not going to look very, very good.
Yeah.
And that's not to say you're fabricating the figures, but you've got to get some consistency of performance into the business, consistent GP margins or EBITDA, so that the business, somebody buying it, can see there's sustainable. It's sustainable. And the trajectory is good, things like their marketing, their innovation, where are they going with their products, and the service that they're providing, the new innovations that are going to be bringing, growth to that business.
Yeah.
Or are they still, producing the same old things and not really looking at modernising?
I think, Amanda, that's a really good question, because it's really important that any business owner understands what the risks are, and in our experience they don't always. And so if when you go through the process of selling a business, if someone's interested in it, they'll come and understandably come and look at it, and they'll do what they call due diligence, and they'll upturn everything. Yeah. So what we've tried to do in the programme is to create a set of phases that are almost not mirrors a set of a process of due diligence, but essentially looks at all the facets that we know from our research and from obviously our experience, what actually takes place. And so often, not only do business owners not have any idea what all of those different risk factors are, they've never had the experience of going through something like that. So when they actually do get to the real thing, they've already gone through a very similar process, and they're used to being, not, when I say interrogated, I don't mean that in in an aggressive sense, but data being interrogated, things being analysed. They'll be used to that
procedure,
and be ready for it with what somebody would want to see and what somebody would want to ask.
Yeah. Okay. So can I ask, how much of a challenge is it to sell a business, would you say?
Well, again, you're full of $64,000 questions today.
Yeah.
Well, it's like anything. The more prepared you are, the more effective your business runs, the easier job you're going to have when you get into a potential negotiation with someone, for them to get what they want and for you to get what you want.
Yeah.
But like all of these things that are complex, they require work. And they require improvement. And it's all businesses have gaps. All businesses have things that they need to improve. So yes, it's a challenge when you identify those areas or you identify those things you've got to improve. But even if you end up not selling it it's still going to improve your business,
yes.
and that's going to mean your proposition is going to be improved for your customers, you know, the stakeholders that you work with and the people within it.
It's
and
a win-win, isn't it? It's
really
a win-win to do this, to have a look at things, how things are working, to evaluate how can we improve, and then take it from there at the end of the day.
But it is an amazingly, you know, it is an emotionally stressful time, because for so many of these owners, they might have, you know, built up from scratch over many years. They've got employees they feel loyal to, customers, all this that it goes through their mind. Am I, you know, dipping out too early? So there's all those kind of emotions that go on. But when you actually get into the process, it can be extremely stressful because of the lawyers, the due diligence.
Yeah, but then I can imagine it becomes quite therapeutic as well, because then it's something that you've really looked, you've dug deep, and at the end you can think, yeah, I've put all my ducks in order.
Well, yeah, I mean that's why the preparation and the planning is so critical, as opposed to a situation where you get an unsolicited approach from somebody who says, "Oh, I want to buy your business," and okay, where's this coming from? Or they offer you X, and okay, I hadn't thought about selling my business, and then you start the process, you start negotiating with them, and then you get through the process, and then all of a sudden it's, oh no, there's a problem with this, there's a problem with that, oh, you haven't done this, you haven't done, oh, we'll only pay you this now.
Yes.
And then I thought you were going to pay me this. And that roller coaster can be an absolute nightmare for people, because all of a sudden they've had an expectation up here, and then that's being quashed.
Yeah.
If they're planning and they're looking for the successors, be it buyers to buy the business, they're in a stronger position.
Yeah.
And this is one of the big things.
I think the other thing as well that I'd add to Neil's remarks there is that, you know, there's so much. This is quite a big area, and Neil and I are very clear on our own expertise and what we add. But what we do know is that there's things that do and can come up in the process that are really not areas that we would touch. But what we did when we created the programme is we also created a big community of colleagues and associates. So where we identified, for example, we identified that there was a big HR need, or there was a big HR question or piece of work. Well, we can both speak sensibly about HR, as do most people who work with and employ people, but sometimes it requires an expert. And so whilst it's Neil and I that are driving the programme, where we identify a need for a specific expert, we would bring them in.
You've got these associates that can support you
that
in
because it's a huge area, and you know, Neil and I, it's not and this is the challenge, you see. It's not possible for one person or one type of business to know all of this.
Yeah.
But we've decided that it was a two-pronged thing. It was about the programme and the community. And you know,
and it's almost like together we're stronger. It's all that expertise, isn't it? It's all that knowledge coming together for the programme.
Totally.
But you know, it's things like, you know, companies, you know, owners not having shareholder agreements in place, not having wills in place.
I was just going to ask you, can you come up with some samples of issues?
Yeah, well, they're the sorts of things that we come across. We come across there's the will's way out of date, and perhaps they've remarried, and therefore it's void. There's no powers of attorney, so... And
things like this are only needed when they're needed.
We hear some horror stories of somebody becoming incapacitated and the bank account not being able to be used because there's only one bank signatory and the person's incapacitated. So that business then can't actually trade. So we spot these kind of things by asking the questions. You know, you've got a shareholders agreement, you've got key man insurance, you've got life insurance.
It's almost a compliance plan, isn't it? Tick, 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 tick.
It's because any of these things can throw that whole business into chaos. Out of the blue. So we're about creating the business being sustainable, growing, being more marketable, being, you know, more sustainable. Being more sustainable for the future and the next generation, and protecting that owner's legacy, really. And as we talk a lot about their legacy that they've built.
Yes,
I think that's right, and I think another big thing, which obviously any business needs to have nailed, not only for a good plan for exit, but actually to run itself effectively itself, and that is governance. And so we with any business, we'll look at the way that they govern the business, the governance procedures, the impact that's having, any gaps that there are, and that can often be a quick win for a business because, I have a colleague who talks about, it's a small hinge to swing a big door. You can make a quite a small modification or change to your business that can have a huge impact. And so even in the program, they'll reap those rewards if they make that decision and make that change. But governance is a huge thing in a business, and any buyer will want to understand how that business is governed. So having looked at that in the program, that will serve them well when they get to a point where that person is across the table from them.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. One last question, because this has been really interesting. How can people get in touch with you guys should they want to find out more about the program?
Well, we're on LinkedIn.
We're on LinkedIn. We're always talking about the program on LinkedIn, aren't we, Neil? And Neil and I are both posting on there.
So
DM us.
The links are on LinkedIn, so people can contact us, go onto our link and
send us a message.
And find out more. Direct message.
We're quite happy to have just chats with people, just no obligation, just to see how we might be able to help them, and if they want to have more formal meetings, then
you can set that. It's about helping people at the end of the day, isn't it? That's why we're all here.
That's why we established it.
It really is.
Yeah. Okay.
That's great.
Well, thanks for coming in. Really appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Amanda, and thanks for helping and talking to us today. We really enjoyed it.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.